Welcome all, and thanks for joining. Um, this session is going to be recorded, so all the registrants will be getting a copy of the webinar after the call. Today, we're going to be continuing our series on PLS playbooks. So with the third installment focusing on the enterprise account consolidation play. If you're at the last sessions, some of this will be review. And for those of you who are just now learning about Calixa or product-led sales plays, my name is Steven. I lead up the sales and success team here at Calixa, and I got my first taste of product-led sales back in 2015 at Mixpanel. And we quickly learned that this was going to be the way that all modern SaaS was sold. So I'm excited to be furthering the education in the space. We do get a lot of questions around playbook best practices. So I think that this session will hit home for a lot of folks. Before we dig into the content, we're going to kick things off with a poll. And so the first question is, we're going to start super simple here. Does your team currently run plays using product data? And then while we are at it, do you have an enterprise account consolidation playbook in your sales motion? All right, and I'm seeing some responses trickle in here. So it looks like there's a few folks that are actively creating an enterprise account consolidation playbook. And it seems like the overwhelming majority of people sometimes are using product data in their plays. Good to know. Cool. Let's continue on here. So in terms of an agenda, we are going to start off with the basics. So what are playbooks and why you should be using them in your go-to-market motions. Then we're going to dig into some of the different types, kind of recapping the previous webinars that we've done in this series. The last ones were on free to paid and upsell and expansion, so we'll kind of cover the basics on those. Then we're going to deep dive into the topic of today, which is this enterprise account consolidation playbook. So we'll kind of finish things off with a demo of how you can get started using playbooks in Calixa to scale up your PQL actions. Definitely ask questions in the chat throughout, but we'll also save time at the end for any questions that come up. Great. So what are product-led sales playbooks? The whole concept of playbooks is really built around the idea of up-leveling the sales playing field. So playbooks are going to make sure that your newest and least tenured account executives or SDRs have access to the same tools or the tools needed for them to punch above their weight class and run deals using a lot of the tactics that the more experienced reps typically are kind of incorporating. So if you're rolling these out thoughtfully, it's going to ensure that all reps are working with all the necessary info they need to close the highest number of deals and not feel like they're at a disadvantage or missing out on some secret that other folks have access to. Well, why is this important? I think best practices are going to ensure higher conversion rates. And then it also allows you to kind of really focus in on tactics that are tailored to different types of PQLs, knowing that, hey, like the play that you're running for net new signup that should be converted to paid is going to be very different than the play that you're running for someone that you're trying to close this enterprise account consolidation with. That those types of differences are generally pretty clear to a rep who has been selling the same product for a while and kind of has these sort of plays, memorized, or they kind of know it like the back of their hand. Whereas for the majority of the team, those nuances might not be as clear. So these are really designed to equip reps, but also give sales leaders confidence that they're running the right play. Their team is going to be running deals and converting deals at the highest rates possible. Cool. So in the like the most common questions that we get when talking with PLG companies who are building out playbooks for the first time are, where do we start? What are the top plays that I should incorporate into the stack today to start seeing results? And so I like to recommend these three. It's starting off with the free to paid conversion playbook. We did a webinar on this in the upsell expansion playbook. So if you're interested in starting with those, feel free to watch those webinars. These two really set the foundation. It's a pretty critical part of every PLG company to acquire new paid logos and then to expand existing paid accounts. This third one, the enterprise account consolidation play that we're going to dive into today, is a bit more nuanced, and it has to do with kind of actively seeking out accounts that have disparate teams using the product and work to get them consolidated into one larger contract. Cool. So we're going to dive into this in kind of three main areas. We're going to look at the signals that are used to kind of identify when it's the right time to kick off an enterprise account consolidation play. Then we're going to jump into the messaging that you can leverage to effectively run this play, and then a recommended set of actions that should be taken. So from a signal perspective, depending on your pricing model, this could look slightly different. But one of the things that PLG companies often look for to kind of indicate that there's some sort of enterprise consolidation opportunity is if there's interest in enterprise-only functionality. Sometimes this presents itself as, hey, usage is getting big. We want SSO functionality so that we can control, the centralized IT team can control access across the board. It could be, hey, maybe there's a set of admin functionality that shouldn't be available to end users. So you want to better lock down permissions. These signals are generally a good sign that usage is growing enough to the point where it makes sense to have some sort of consolidation across the board. Siloed workspaces at the company. So one of the beautiful things about PLG is many of these tools are very easy to adopt and easy for individual teams that are working at the same company to adopt. But they might not always have insight into who else is using the product. So as a rep, if you see the sales team, the marketing team, the engineering team, they're all using the product, but not really collaborating or talking to each other, there might be an opportunity to consolidate the contract and get them on a larger, more comprehensive plan. We've seen a trend of companies looking at like percentage of total employees using the product. This is very popular with productivity tools, where pretty much any employee could be a potential user of the product. You could think of this as like the total account addressable market, and once the percentage of paid users with respect to total employees reaches a certain level, then that's usually a good sign to kind of kick off this enterprise consolidation play. And then finally, active decision makers from different departments. So this one's interesting. If you've seen not just end user adoption, but also people above the line, VPs, directors, even C-level engagement from different teams, that's generally a good sign that the product is sticky enough and valuable enough to negotiate some sort of consolidated contract with the company. Great. So those are kind of the ways that when it's the right time to kick off one of these plays. But how do you message it? What should a sales rep be thinking when they're approaching a company with one of these that fits into one of these buckets? I think for a lot of PLG tools, it's increasing the ease of collaboration. So whereas, a lot of, you might not see sales working super closely with engineering today. There are opportunities to, more tightly integrate the product across teams and potentially, open up new channels of communication, whether it's about product feedback or, any releases that have come out that are impacting customers, things like that. Centralized billing. So I think one thing that we've all seen rolling into 2023 is more scrutiny on budgets. And oftentimes that manifests itself in, more desire for control of every single expense and line item. So oftentimes going from, hey, you have 3 teams being billed on different cadences, on different corporate cards, consolidating that into one expense that's predictable and owned by, either finance or their procurement team. That oftentimes can be a win-win in that you can negotiate a longer term contract, but on better terms for the buying company. I alluded to this earlier, but security and governance, a lot of the times, once usage gets to a certain point within an organization, just the ability to, kind of centrally administer access and deprovision users that have left the company becomes a huge requirement. So oftentimes, kind of playing into the value that you'll get from having more control over who's using and not using the tool, and being able to control permissions and access can be a big differentiator for these plans. And finally, support. Oftentimes, like this is a classic sort of carrot that people dangle, but the bigger, more consolidated enterprise plans oftentimes have a priority support queue attached to them, so that if support questions are common on the team, you can offer a higher level of support and faster response time in exchange for getting on this enterprise plan. Great. And so the last piece, the actions, I think this part is going to vary a bit based on how the motion is set up today. But typically we see 4 key kind of categories of actions are, hey, you really want to understand the current usage, more so even than like the free to paid conversion play. With enterprise account consolidation, you want to know how many teams are using it. You want to know how many users within those teams, if there are champions, if the decision makers are also the end users. So really reviewing that can be a key differentiator in the success or failure of running this play. Then tracking an upsell opportunity, so creating that in the CRM, starting by emailing your champions. So oftentimes with these plays, since you're going to be negotiating a higher contract value, going through the centralized purchasing process for this organization, you're going to want to make sure you have internal advocates and also access to the decision maker, and be able to, credibly speak to the value that folks are getting, both at the individual user level and also at the decision maker level. Okay, cool. So an example of what this would look like in Calixa, I'll walk through it in more detail in a demo, but you have kind of this set of action items clearly laid out, and links to take those follow-up actions in just a couple clicks. But how do we kind of make this all happen? There's a lot of moving parts here. I talked about the importance of understanding usage data, the importance of identifying decision makers, being able to effectively articulate the value that folks are getting before kicking off these plays. So Calixa is really kind of the central hub that equips sellers with the data they need to execute these plays. So whether it's your SDR and AEs that are kind of prospecting into the sign-up base to find which of the end users we should be reaching out to kick off this consolidation play, or whether it's the AEs that are trying to kind of move upstream and identify the executive sponsors or decision makers. We're pulling all that data together, helping you enrich it, and giving you easy to run workflows for quickly executing these plays. But this functionality is really only as powerful as the data that is used to back it up. So we built out no-code integrations with most of the modern or the tools in the modern data stack. So we work with companies who are warehouse native, pulling in product data from Snowflake or BigQuery, but also easily integrate with Segment, Mixpanel, and Amplitude for event data. We also have enriched your product data with the data that's coming from traditional CRMs like Salesforce and HubSpot, and then pulling in conversations from your support tools like Intercom and Zendesk. Then for the outreach piece, we've integrated with sales engagement platforms like SalesLoft and Outreach, but you can also kind of trigger emails from CRMs like HubSpot as well. So this all gets pulled together in a simple UI full of rich data that is built for salespeople. So one of the things that we commonly hear is, the tools that exist, like whether it's reps that are living in a BI tool like Looker or Tableau, or, viewing a lot of this product usage data and trying to execute plays from spreadsheets. Those approaches are not built for salespeople. So our interface and our user experience is really designed for these sales workflows. We'll get into more detail on how we do that in the demo. But before we switch gears, one final poll question. So what are the biggest challenges you see today in creating an enterprise account consolidation playbook? Determining the right goals and next steps is the clear winner here, and I'm not surprised that that's the winner. I think what we've typically seen is that part of the process, kind of agreeing upon what the outcome of these plays should be, is typically a cross-functional approach or a cross-functional discussion. So you have sales is obviously driving towards getting bigger deals closed faster. But you also have folks on kind of the product growth side that are used to this net organic end user adoption of your product. So kind of aligning on what the long-term goal is of your acquisition and growth strategy from a customer perspective is critical to figure out what the sales reps should be driving towards. Perfect. So we're going to switch over to a demo now, kind of starting off with the alerts in Calixa's PQL inbox. Then we're going to jump into the context that we talked about. What does a rep need to know to effectively execute this play? And then showing how you can execute the relevant actions. I'll be switching over to my other screen share here. Cool. And so I popped over to our demo account. This is the inbox where a rep would start their day, and it's going to surface the accounts and playbooks associated with those accounts that are most relevant or most pressing. You can see here this account, Barton Bank, has high product usage. They're a great customer fit. They have over 1,000 employees, solid usage. They've been hitting some paywalls. Those paywalls could be the enterprise security features that I had talked about. And most importantly for this demo, they've triggered this enterprise account consolidation play. So as a sales rep, I don't have to think too much about why this play was triggered, but I know that they've met the criteria and it's time for me to take some actions. So in this case, what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to review the current usage of this account, then create an upsell opportunity, and finally send a cadence to the decision maker with some messaging that looks something like this. First up, reviewing the account usage. I can quickly pop in and see exactly what this account has been doing, how many projects they've created on a weekly, monthly, or daily basis, what their usage trends look like over the last several months, how many paywalls they've hit. But when you're thinking about this enterprise consolidation play, one of the things that we keep harping on is who are the individual users in the account that are going to push this through. And so here we can see, some high-level users, a VP of finance that has solid product usage. They could potentially be a decision maker, but the CEO is not currently engaged. So I likely don't want to start by reaching out to them. Maybe I want to reach out to one of the AEs to get some valuable end user feedback from a champion before I go up the chain. So kind of following the actions in the playbook, one thing I can do is I can add this account executive to a cadence. I can, create a task to follow up with this VP of finance in Salesforce. Then I can also go back here and just create the opportunity to track this whole process in Salesforce. All of these fields are configurable by you, and we allow for defaults to be set so that creating an opportunity, creating a task, adding someone to a cadence should never be a burdensome exercise of filling out a bunch of form fields. You also can see here that given that PLG is going to be dynamic and there could be multiple things happening with a given account at one time, this account also has a few additional plays, like the speed to lead play that's active, where it's telling me I should actually be, reaching out to this user who's hit paywalls. Same thing with the upsell opportunity playbook. So there's a lot going on with this account, and I have full context for who I should be reaching out to and about what. Setting this up is also extremely easy. So you can go into our alerting, and Calixa alerts can be configured to be based on product usage data or scoring or the role of someone. And they can be delivered either to an email inbox, Slack, or the playbook that I just walked through here. We would love to kind of take this one step further and start to map out what some playbooks would look like for you and your team. So if you have questions or kind of want to walk through the exercise of configuring the signals or the triggers and what the messaging in the alert or the playbook should be, would love to hop on a call and chat through that. Great. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to the deck for the wrap up here. So now I'll open it up to questions. All right. So I see one of the best, what are the best ways to begin using consolidation playbooks? So I think first off, it starts by um, understanding a couple key wins that the team has had in this area. Oftentimes, that starts by looking at some of your biggest accounts and how those accounts adopted your product. So let's say you're selling to Google. You see that maybe like the Google Ads team started using your products, and then the Google, search team started using it, and then Nest began using it. Take the learnings from how that account adopted the product and how the sales rep actually managed to convert that into an enterprise account, and then roll that out with other large accounts. This play typically is not run for your SMB segment. It's really focusing on the upper end of your market. But take the learnings that have worked once, try to apply them in other areas, and iterate from there. Great. Cool. Any other questions? Okay, so another one we see is how have you seen consolidation playbooks work at other companies? So I think this one is a bit more experimental than the other two that we've covered, which is why we've left it as third in the series. But when it works really well. And there's a few reasons why I think, like, especially in 2023, this play is pretty essential to include in your go-to-market stack. One is that it leads to bigger contracts and more predictable revenue. Oftentimes, one of the things that PLG companies struggle with is retention on smaller teams, or the cost of serving customers that have a lot of disparate teams or disparate end users across the company. So this allows you to increase the value of the account while reducing the complexity, and ensuring that you have one dedicated purchasing point of contact, and have a relationship with someone higher up in the organization that has budget for any continued account growth. Cool. Awesome. Well, we're coming right up at the bottom of the hour here. So thank you everyone for joining. My contact info is up here. Feel free to sign up for Calixa on our site, or follow us on LinkedIn to stay in the loop with more info. Thanks, everyone.